Have you ever wondered if ancient texts, texts that are thousands of years old, might have hidden numerical patterns? Kind of like a secret code just sitting there, embedded right within the verses. It's a wild thought, right?
Well, what if we could use modern code to actually find those patterns? Could we build a computational magnifying glass to explore these intricate designs? That's exactly what we're going to dive in today. This really fascinating place where ancient scripture meets modern data science.
We're going to be looking at a specific methodology called the Matheny framework. You can think of it as an automated explorer, a piece of code that systematically hunts for these numerical patterns, or pola, as the framework calls them, inside the Quran.
But, and this is really important, before we get into the tech, we have to understand where this core idea even comes from. See, this isn't just about randomly applying code to a text. The whole framework is actually built on a concept from within the Quran itself.
And that key concept is Matheny. The word literally means oft repeated. So the framework takes this as its guiding principle. This idea that repetition, whether it's in themes or, in numbers, is a fundamental, deliberate part of the text's structure. Almost like it's pointing to a kind of divine order.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. How does this framework actually go about finding these repetitions? Well, it uses a really structured 5-step process that acts like a set of different analytical lenses to look through.
It follows this really logical path, kind of like a detective's investigation. It starts with textual analysis, making sure everything is grounded in the proper context of classical Islamic scholarship. Then it moves into the hard data with numerical analysis to pull out the patterns. And the last 3 steps are all about making sense of what it finds, connecting the numbers to spiritual ideas through symbolic mapping, exploring their math, and finally visualization, which makes these super abstract patterns way easier to understand.
So all that theory is great, but let's see how this thing actually performs in practice. We're going to put the framework to the test with a specific case study and see what this automated explorer can really find.
We're going to focus on one specific numerical pattern, or pola, which is 237. The analysis is going to zero in on Surah al-Baqarah, which is the 2nd chapter of the Quran, and see how this number might connect to verse 196.
And here is what the analysis spits out. And this isn't an interpretation, this is just the raw data. For our target pola of 237, the framework finds its factors and the sum of its digits. But check out that last line, ritual matches. This is where it gets interesting. The code is programmed to check if these numbers match a list of numbers that are significant in Islamic rituals. And here, it found a match with the number 3, flagging a potential connection worth looking into.
Now this chart, this really brings that core concept of Matheny, or repetition, to life. When the framework analyzes all the numbers inside verse 196, like word counts, letter counts, things like that, it finds that certain numbers pop up again and again. In this case, the number 7 appears 4 times, and the number 9 shows up twice. This is exactly the kind of hidden repetition the framework is designed to find and, put right in front of you.
And just to show you this isn't a one-trick pony, let's quickly compare our pola 23-7 to another pattern, pola 19. Since 19 is a prime number, its numerical fingerprint is much simpler. Its symbolic mapping connects to al-alim, the all-knowing. So, by putting these side by side, you can see the framework isn't a one-size-fits-all tool. It creates a totally unique data profile for every single number it looks at.
Okay, so this brings us to the big question. So what, right? We've run the code, we've looked at the data, we've seen the charts, but what does an analysis like this really tell us?
Well, the goal here isn't necessarily to prove some kind of secret code or anything like that. It's really about looking at the text through a completely new and different lens. It's a tool that gives us a new kind of insight into the potential numerical architecture of the text itself.
So at the end of the day, the framework doesn't give us definitive answers. What it does is offer a new perspective. It lets us see the text's unique numerical fingerprint. It basically lets us ask questions about the structure of the text that were pretty much impossible to investigate in a systematic way before.
A deep dive like this really just makes you think. It reminds us that even simple numbers can hold these incredibly complex structures if you just have the right tools to look at them. And it makes you wonder, What other stories are hidden in the numbers? Not just in this text, but in all kinds of historical documents, just waiting for someone to find them. What else is out there waiting to be told?